Welcome back to Cheddar, everyone. Major League Baseball is engaged in a classic game of tug-of-war as they negotiate a start to their season. Last week, the owners voted to approve an 82-game regular season. Then this past Sunday, the players proposed a 114-game regular season that would end on October 31st. On Monday, an ESPN report said that the owners were mulling giving players the full prorated salaries that they are asking for, but would also include just a 50-game regular season. The sides have yet to come to a resolution. And joining us now is Scott Miller, MLB columnist for the Bleacher Report. Great to have you here with us today. Before we dive into the negotiations, we need to address what's going on with the protests across the country. The MLB is not known as a league to show much in the way of demonstrations, but what role do you think athletes, especially baseball players, should play in the civil action?
Yeah, I think everybody has a voice and should use it. What happened yesterday, the United States military police tear gassing and attacking United States citizens protesting peacefully, it's horrific. The strong arm tactics from the White House and the rhetoric and the language that's being used. And you've seen individual players, Giancarlo Stanton, Jack Flaherty, and Marcus Stroman have been very eloquent in speaking their mind, and Flaherty in particular, writing about the failure of law enforcement at times. Lucas Giolito, you've had individual players speak out, and one thing that puzzles me is we haven't heard much from the league itself, from Major League Baseball, and to me, that's disappointing. This is the league of Jackie Robinson, and Jackie Robinson in 1947 broke the color barrier. Baseball's always been very proud of that. Yet right now, you're seeing these individual players step out, and rightfully so, making their statements. But the league as a whole has been, from the commissioner's office, has been lagging behind the NBA and other sports.
Getting to this action on the diamond, I suppose, what is the most likely scenario for how many games we could see in the regular season, and how quickly would a deal need to be struck for this to happen?
Well, the clock, there's starting to be some urgency, because if you figure a season, whatever part of the season there is starts in July, you need roughly 3 weeks of spring training. The players and owners, everybody pretty much agrees 3 weeks of spring training. So that would be mid-June. Today's June 2nd. Clock is ticking. I mean, there needs to be an agreement soon. The later there's an agreement, the later spring training would start. And then the later into July, a season would start. And we still don't know what a season will look like. I still think it's going to be right around that 80-game mark. But there's been a lot of rhetoric and back and forth and public negotiating through leaks between the players and owners. And, if you listen to the rhetoric right now, you have to say it could go either way. And I think if things blow up and there is no baseball, that's a whole other issue that is going to be horrific for the game. So I think for the good of the game and for players and owners to at least recoup some of the money that's being lost, I do think there'll be an agreement.
So ultimately here, player salaries have also been a contentious issue. Last week's proposal from the owners included the highest paid players losing close to 80% of their 2020 salary. Then Scott Boras, an agent who represents many of the league's top players, told his clients not to bail the owners out. Do you believe that the players will still receive their full prorated salaries if there is a season?
Right now, it looks like the owners have a pot of money, so to speak, and that's the prorated salaries they've offered the players. And they're saying they're losing so much money, especially per game and through TV contracts and lost games, that they're telling the players basically, here, this is the pool of money we have for you. And the owners are the ones that recommended, as you said, the more drastic pay cuts for the highest paid players. The union could take that pool of money basically and divvy it up any way they want and come back to the owners and say, what about this? And I think it would, the owners would, at this point, the ball on that is in the players' court. But the players, if they don't want to take any more salary cuts, the owners basically want the players to share the burden of lost money this year with them. And the players are saying, yeah, we'll go prorated salaries to a point, but not drastically. And how they divvied up, what those final numbers look like, it remains to be seen. I think the word creativity is going to have to come into play. The on both sides, nobody's happy about where we're at with the lost money and how they're going to try to go forward in a season with no fans. But still, everybody is suffering right now, and out of baseball too. I mean, you're talking about the highest unemployment rate at any time since the Great Depression. I mean, these are unprecedented times, and the players and owners both are going to have to realize that.
Right. There is a report circulating that some MLB owners are perfectly willing to cancel the season in order to slash payroll costs and reduce losses. If this were to happen, how long would it take for Major League Baseball's popularity and reputation to be restored?
Yeah, that's the nuclear scenario. And I think a lot of people realize that, because if they cancel the season, if there's no season, you're talking about a sport that already is trying to win fans with a younger generation that's strayed away from baseball. So you're talking about that. You would be talking from the end of the World Series last October to opening day next April. The sport would have gone dark for 17 months. That is a long time to be out of sight and out of mind, and have fans go find something else to do. And I don't think all the fans would come back to baseball. We saw that after the 94-95 player strike. It took a long time for baseball to get its footing again. And I think there's less patience now, especially in the middle of a pandemic. And I think fans will say, look, everybody in the country is suffering, and millionaires and billionaires couldn't get together during a crisis to figure something out. They'll say basically a pox on both of your houses. I think 17 months dark would be catastrophic for baseball.
All right, Scott Miller, who's the MLB columnist for Bleacher Report, joining us here today. Thanks so much for the time, Scott.